Howdy folks, how are y'all doing? My name is Cub, and welcome to Cub's Guide to Tekkit Legends. I have a very successful Tekkit Legends Let's Play going on my channel right now, and if you want to, I'll link on the screen as well in the description. You can check out the first episode. We just wrapped up 50 episodes, and we're about to kick off Season 2, and I wanted to take some of the things that I've learned from playing the game and share them with you guys via Cub's Guide to Tekkit Legends, which is what this is. We're going to start off today doing a very large overview of the mod ProjectE, which is a recreation of the equivalent exchange mod from back in Tekkit Classic. A lot of you folks will probably remember it. It's been remade for Tekkit 1 or for Minecraft 1.7, and today we're going to do a very big general overview. We're going to look at all the items in the pack. We're not going to go too deep into detail about how each of them works, because I think that would be a much longer video, and in fact, I would like to give some of these items, or some of these groups of items, their own videos, very specifically going into their use and what you can do with them. So if you're interested in any of these items and you want to see them in greater detail, comment down below. I'm going to be referencing a wiki a lot. You'll find that linked in the description as well. So if you see an item you're like, I want to know more, check out the wiki. There's a lot of great information on there. So my goal for this video is to, if you're not familiar with the mod, explain what it is, how it works, and why you might want to use it, and kind of the basics. So the whole mod revolves around the idea of EMC. And by the way, if you're playing in a pack that is not Tekkit Legends, this is very strictly ProjectE, so this should be pretty universal. Most packs, I believe, will have NEI installed, so you don't have to worry about that. And moving forward, let me just go ahead and explain. The idea of ProjectE, it's based around the idea, and I think that Albert Einstein first theorized this, it's that all matter in the universe is condensed from energy, and that theoretically you could turn that matter back into energy and then use that energy to create a different type of matter. That's basically what you're doing here. You're transmuting things, you're changing from one element to another equal element, or maybe you're combining a lot of smaller elements to make a greater element. It's all very simple once you see it done, but it's kind of difficult to explain without just doing it. So let's go ahead and talk about EMC. EMC is sort of the currency of this mod pack. And if you have NEI installed in whatever you're playing, and I say mod pack, I meant mod, EMC, you can kind of hover over an item if you have NEI, and you'll see stone. It now has an EMC value listed below that. Stone is worth 1 EMC. That means that anything else that is worth 1 EMC, we can change stone into that item. What else is 1 EMC? Grass is 1 EMC, dirt is 1 EMC, cobble is 1 EMC, so we could transmute all of these items into one another. Podzel's worth 2. Which means you could transmute Podzel into 2 cobblestones. Does that make sense? Everybody following? So far, I sure hope so, because if not, you're about to get lost. Tekkit has a lot of cool things in it, and a lot of those cool things come from ProjectE. And again, I'm just going to give you guys a bare rundown. The first thing you're going to want to build in ProjectE to get started is the Philosopher's Stone. This is sort of your first step into the world of transmutation. So right off the bat, it has some transmuting capabilities. If you look down at the ground, remember what I said earlier, dirt has 1 EMC. So does something like sand, which, yeah, 1 EMC. So it makes sense that if you look in the top left, you'll see all we have to do is left click, and we can transmute grass into sand using our Philosopher's Stone. You can also hold down shift, turn it into cobblestone, turn that into stone, turn that back into grass. Really cool stuff you can do with it. Now, not everything has that ability. For instance, clicking on snow will do nothing. Clicking on grass will do nothing. But it is really useful for things like that. If you want to press V, you can charge this thing up. You get a 3x3 area, I believe 5x5. I think it goes really big, and you could say, hey, you know what? I want to make a big old beach. Well, look at that. Now you can, and then you can decide, you know what? I don't want it to be a big old beach. I want it to be all ugly, nasty cobblestone. And you can do that. You can do some really cool things with this thing. Holding down Shift and tapping V again will uncharge our Philosopher's Stone. What else can you do with it? Well, if you have it selected in your hotbar and you press C, you can use it as a mobile crafting grid, a full 3x3 crafting grid on the go, which is great. It's also needed in several recipes. So if we hover over it and we hit R, that'll show us the recipe on how to build it. It takes 4 redstone, 4 glowstone, and a diamond. Not cheap in total, almost 10,000 EMC, but not bad either. If we tap U, it'll give us our uses, and there's some pretty cool things you can do with it. So let's say you have, in this case, it's showing diamond. You normally don't have diamond blocks on you. What you do normally have on you, there's a good example, copper ore. If you have 7 copper ore, you can either smelt that in a furnace, or you can take a piece of coal or charcoal, your philosopher's stone, put it all in a grid, and boom, you can get your copper ingots. This will consume the coal or charcoal, it'll consume the blocks, it will not consume the philosopher's stone. There's no recipe in ProjectE that will ever consume your philosopher's stone. You just have to have it in the grid, it'll be there when you're done making an item, so don't worry, it's not like it's going to take your 10,000 EMC worth of philosopher's stone to give you not even 1,000 EMC of copper. This will stay around. You can do that with just about any item in the game that can be smelted. You can smelt it using your philosopher's stone in either coal or charcoal, so that's cool. It's also needed for other recipes, and again, none of these recipes will consume it. It just has to be there. So you can make interdiction torches, which we'll look at later. You can make a transmutation table, which we're going to look at next. You can also use it to either transmutate up or down. So if you have 8 pieces of iron, well, you'll see they're worth 256. 256 times 8 is 2,048, the total EMC of a gold ingot. So using our philosopher's stone and some iron, you can get gold. Same here for ender pearls, diamonds. We're going to get to these fuels later, but you have alchemical coal. I believe you have Mobius fuel, Aeternalis fuel. These are things added by ProjectE. We'll cover them in a second. 2 diamonds equals emerald, and you could do it the other way around. So let's say you have a piece of gold. You can turn that into 8 iron ingots. You can turn a diamond into 4 gold, an emerald into 2 diamonds. If you happen to need a particular item, and you can usually use the philosopher's stone to transmutate up or down to get, like let's say you have diamonds, but you need gold, or you have some gold and you need a diamond, really useful. So that's sort of your first stage of transmutation there with your philosopher's stone. We're going to get rid of it though. As you saw, you can use it to create this guy, a transmutation table, and you have to place this fella down on the ground. So we'll just right-click him there. Don't really need to hang on to this one in our inventory. This guy here is where your more serious transmuting takes place. Now, don't let this interface scare you. We're going to go ahead and grab a few items from over here. We'll get some podzol too. The way that this works is this guy here works as a battery to store EMC, but it can also remember the items you put into it. So if we take some stone and we throw it into here where this fire is, boom, it's consumed it, it's learned the recipe, and we now have 1 EMC stored inside of our transmutation table. Meaning at any time, if we want another piece of stone, we can pull it out as long as we have the EMC for it. So right now we have no EMC. Let's say we put that back in there. We have 1 EMC, and we can pull out the stone, or we can teach it something else. We'll throw grass in there. We'd have 2 EMC, and we could get, let's say, 2 stones, or 2 grass, or 1 of each if you wanted to, or just 1 and leave the other EMC in there. Now, before you ask, don't worry. The transmutation table does not store the recipe. It's actually stored in your player file, meaning if you build some other transmutation tables, look at that, it'll remember the recipes and it'll remember the EMC value. Because it's not stored in the table, it's stored inside of your player file. Pretty nifty. Now, you don't have to have items thrown into the fire and have them consumed. You can also teach it recipes by dropping it right here in the middle. Teaching in the middle will learn it, and you can pull it right back out. And that also helps you sort items. So if we had like thousands of items taught to our transmutation table, like I have in my Let's Play series, and let's say I needed something like wool. I could just I have a piece of wool in my inventory, I could put it in the middle there, and it would sort through and just show me wool. You can go through your pages here, we don't have any, or you can search using this bar up top, so we can just type in stone. It's funny, a lot of times people will say, hey Cub, did you know if you use the bar in the bottom, and then you do some like weird workarounds, it'll show you the items in the just use the search bar in the transmutation table. It works just fine. Also, if you have items that you want to feed into the transmutation table and they have an EMC value, because not all items do. In fact, if we take a look over here right off the bat, tracks don't have EMC values. But if you have an item that does, if you hold down Shift and left click, it'll throw it into the transmutation table. Now, because I am using a texture pack, which will also be linked in the description, technically it'll be a link to the playlist. You'll find the texture pack there. But there's another block right here that you can't see because for some reason it's not in the texture pack. This is your forget me block. If we take dirt and we say, you know what, we don't want the transmutation table to remember dirt anymore, we can put it right there and it'll unlearn dirt. And as you can see, even though we have the EMC for more dirt, we don't have the recipe over here because we've made it forget it. You can teach it right back to it. Now this guy here is not too expensive. If we take a look at the recipe, and again, if you ever want to look at the recipe for an item, just hover over it and tap R. There you go. We have stone, obsidian, and your philosopher's stone, which does not get consumed. Don't worry, really, it's just 4 obsidian, 4 stone to make this guy. So really, it's only 200 and 60 EMC. Very affordable. Uses, though, you can use it to create a transmutation tablet, which I so happen to have one of those right over here. It's basically the same thing, except it's mobile. As you can see, it's tied into the same player file as the transmutation table, so it remembers the recipes, it remembers the EMC value that I have. Only difference is you can walk around with it, and it costs a lot. Let me put this into perspective for you. 2,228,488 EMC is equal to 2,228,488 pieces of stone. So yeah, it's expensive. But there you go. That'll get you started. That's how you do your basic transmutation. Transmutating? Either way. Next up, we're going to take a look at Klein stars, because these are also very important to how you play the game. These are, they kind of have like two functionalities. One, you can, if you have some EMC, like we have 5 EMC, you can take your Klein star, set it over here, it'll suck up the EMC, and now the EMC is stored inside of our Klein star, and to get it back, you can drop it here in the center, EMC is reloaded, pretty useful. They also work as batteries, so not only can you store EMC in them, but certain items, and we'll get to them here in a bit, will need EMC to operate, almost like they need electricity, except, matter. Or I guess it is energy, isn't it? It's matter energy. Anyway, you can use the Klein star as a battery, or you can walk around with fuel in your inventory. So what sounds better? Do you want to walk around with a couple stacks of coal, or a couple stacks of glowstone, or just one fully charged Klein star? Klein star is the way to go, and you don't even have to have it on your hotbar. If you're using an item that has to use EMC as fuel, you can just have this guy tucked up in the corner, and you're good to go. Now, this version here is probably the cheapest. It's made with Mobius fuel and diamond, and we'll get to Mobius fuel here in a minute. But you can actually use this guy, you can put 4 of them together and make a bigger Klein star, which will hold even more EMC. And you can do this several times all the way up to the Omega, which costs 25 million EMC to make. That's it, to make it. And then it stores a whole lot more. Now, we're not going to hang on to this guy. We don't really need it. What we do need, though, later on is we're going to need some more EMC. So I've got an Omega here, and I've got a block of red matter, which is worth 119 million EMC. I know, a bit absurd. Using our transmutation table here, and this also works with the tablet, we're going to throw our red matter in there. We're going to fill up our Klein star. We have some EMC to spare, as you can see, but we now have this guy in our inventory in case we need some fuel for later. Now, speaking of fuel, this pack, and I say pack, I mean mod, ProjectE, adds some interesting fuels, and you'll see we have all of our fuels as well as their block equivalents. Starting off with the basics here, alchemical coal. If we look at the recipe, it's just your philosopher's stone and 4 coal. So it's basically just 4 coal condensed into a single block. I think it might have a little bit more value than that. I think it might burn longer than 4 pieces of coal. So if you want to use it as a fuel in a furnace or in a generator, you can totally do that, and it's a great fuel source. Because if you have a stack of this, you basically have 4 stacks of coal. And again, I might be wrong. It might be worth a little bit more than that. Not entirely sure. 4 of these, though, if we take a look at uses, you can create, using 9 of them a block, or 4 of them with your Philosopher's Stone will give you Mobius fuel. Same here. You can use Mobius fuel to create your Klein star, as we talked about earlier, as well as some jewelry. We'll get to those things later. Or you can use the 4 of them to create Aeternalis fuel, which you need to make dark matter, later on red matter. Pretty useful. I'm bringing these up because you are going to need them to build certain items. We'll go ahead and get rid of this guy. And look at dark matter and red matter. I kind of already talked about them. As you can see, though, if we take a look at the recipe, you have to have Aeternalis fuel, a block of diamond. This stuff is expensive. It has to be, you have to have it in order to make red matter, which is even more expensive. And both of those things are needed to build some higher end items later on. We'll get to all that later. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, Cub, how do you get so much EMC? Some of these things are absurdly expensive. The red matter, that is equal to 466,000 pieces of cobblestone. How does that work? How do you do it? Well, there's one cheaty way of doing it, which is legitimate. It's built into the game, and we'll get to that later. But I've been doing it with quarries. I just have, if you watch my Let's Play series, I have a series of quarries set up, processing the items and breaking them down into EMC. It's pretty useful, and we'll get more to how you do that later. For right now, let's take a look at some of the more useful items you can get. So this is probably your best bet for starting off with. You're going to have your divining rod. Divining rods, you right-click the ground with them, and they say, hey, for the 27 blocks around you, there's 1 EMC value. So the average EMC for 27 blocks around us is 1 EMC. So this is measuring, I believe, a 3x3 cube into the ground. So look at the ground, right-click. Beneath us, there's nothing but dirt. Does that make sense? I don't think I'm explaining it correctly. The recipe uses low covalence dust, cobblestone, charcoal, It'll give you, you're going to have covalence dust for a lot of things, so you might as well get familiar with it. Your divining rod there. The highest version of the divining rod, if we go ahead and get this guy out, now this is a useful one to build. The recipe is going to be a medium divining rod, some high covalence dust. Here's your high covalence dust. Here's your medium divining rod. Here's your medium covalence dust. You get the idea. If you look at the ground and right click, initially it shows the exact same distance as the first divining rod, 27 blocks, so a 3x3 block. But if you take a look, it also shows us the max EMC, second max, and the third. So if you're out in a real world, right now I'm in a super flat world, so there's not really going to be anything beneath us. But you're out in the real world mining, and you're like, okay, I need to find some diamonds. Look at the ground, punch the button. If it comes up and says, hey, 8,000 EMC beneath you in that max slot, you'll know that's the place to dig down. Now, right now, this guy's charged all the way down. If we tap the G key, you'll see we've switched to a 16x3x3 mode. If we tap it again, it's 64x3x3. So if you're at level 64 and you right-click the ground with this thing, it'll go all the way down to the bottom. And as you can see, it's found something worth 4 EMC. If you're looking for diamonds, you can go around and, look at that. Max EMC beneath us, 8,192. There's probably diamonds down there. Diamonds. Look at that. It's like magic. So that's a really useful tool to build if you want to do some early mining. It's pretty cheap. Only 1,740 EMC, and it's really going to help you find some items. Now, I think that these do require some type of fuel in your inventory. I could be wrong. You can start off by using just coal, I think charcoal, glowstone, things like that. Or if you already have a Klein Star, it'll use that. Now, I don't think we're going to have a Klein Star because I am doing this in creative, and I don't think a Klein Star is required. But, you know, for the sake of tutorial, I do have one. Next up, if you're not looking for help mining, or maybe you want to move on to storage, we've got some great options here. The alchemical chest, for instance. This sucker is huge, 104 inventory slots, I believe. Really awesome. We also have the alchemical bag, which is the same size except for it's mobile, and you can carry it around with you. Great if you're mining, let's say with your divining rod, and you need a place to store all of the ores you're digging up. Recipe is pretty simple. It's going to be some black wool and some high covalence dust, as well as an alchemical chest. That'll give you the bag. The alchemical chest is made with some covalence dust, a diamond, chest, ironstone. Nothing complicated here. And again, these recipes are very simple. Diamond, coal. It gives you 40, so you have enough to do just about everything. Look, redstone, iron, some regular stone, charcoal. Pretty neat, but there's something else you can do with these guys. You'll notice I had a piece of wood in here, a wooden axe actually, a damaged wooden axe. Well, this guy here is called a Talisman of Repair. And if you have him either on your hotbar when you're walking around in the world, or inside of a alchemical bag or alchemical chest, he will repair items. I don't know why he's a he, but if you put him in there and we take a look at this guy, you'll see, yep, the EMC value is going up and the wooden axe number is changing. That's because it's being repaired. That works either inside of an alchemical chest, an alchemical bag, or if we take this guy out, it also works in our inventory. And yes, the effect is multiplied by having more repair talismans. So if you have a lot of repair talismans, hey, you know what? You're even better off. So we'll leave all these guys behind. Not really going to use them. I think if you put the repair talisman on what's called a pedestal, this guy right here, I should have had one over there. If you put it on a pedestal, then any player that runs by it will also slowly have their tools repaired. So if you're on a server, that can be pretty nifty. A pedestal, and I suppose now that I've mentioned it, I might as well go ahead and look at it. Pedestal right here. I didn't mean to do that. It's really expensive. It's not something you're going to be building anytime soon. Lots of dark matter, lots of red matter. Very, very expensive, but also useful for a lot of other things we're going to be looking at. Now, I wasn't really sure if I needed to put an energy condenser next to the alchemical chest, but I figured they're dependent on one another. And if you look at the recipe, you have to have an alchemical chest to build an energy condenser. And the energy condenser is sort of like the automated version of your transmutation table or tablet. You can use this guy if you are, well, actually, this is what I use with my my quarry. So let's say you had a quarry and it's digging up lots of cobblestone. We'll put the cobblestone in here. Well, you can have the items piped in there, and let's say you want to get something else out. Let's say we want to get some oak wood. You take the oak wood, you put it up top here, and as you can see, any item that gets pumped in there with an EMC value will be broken down and changed automatically to oak wood, which we could then pump out. Now, oak wood, usually I'd suggest using something like a diamond, red matter, dark matter, something very expensive. All the items that have an EMC value will get dumped in here, transmuted into that, and then you'll have these higher valued items that you can use later on. The only difference between the energy condenser and the energy condenser Mark II is that the Mark II will condense an entire stack of items in one go instead of doing them one at a time. So it's a bit faster. Very useful if you have a situation where you're mining, like you have several quarries pumping into one of these. This is definitely your best bet to go with. I would highly recommend this one over the standard one. I should go ahead and mention right now, if an item does not have an EMC value, it cannot be pumped into these. So make sure you have your sorting set up correctly, or you'll just have items being thrown around. Or if you're using blue power for sorting, your machines will just get jammed up. So keep an eye on that. All right, so that's been storage and a little bit more transmutating. Now let's take a look at some things you can use to destroy the world. Yeah, that's right. Hyperkinetic lens. Right-click, shoots a ball of pure destructive energy, and it does consume a little bit of EMC. We have a Klein star here. If I was in, and in fact, if we just, I was going to do an example. If we weren't in creative mode, it would consume the energy from our Klein star. Because we're in creative mode, it doesn't matter. Right-click on the ground, it blows it up, and as you saw, it dropped those items directly into my hotbar. So this is an interesting way to mine or gather resources. Right-click, boom, items are taken and sucked directly into the hotbar. Pretty nifty. Next up, we have our destruction catalyst, which is similar, but a bit more controlled. Look at the area, right-click, 3x3 area, sucked up. And you'll see it drops these little black loot balls. If we collect those, it drops the items that it collected into our inventories. This is useful. Now, both of these can be charged up using V. So on the hyperkinetic lens, you charge it up and then cause much more damage. Same here, destruction catalyst, charge it up, and much more damage. You can decharge them by holding down Shift and tapping V again. That'll charge them down. And as you can see, you end up with a lot of crap. I now have to get rid of all this crap. Now, as great as these items are, what if I told you could get them both connected? Yeah, that's right. A 2-in-1. This is the catalytic lens. And this guy here does both things. Right-clicking works like the destruction catalyst. And if you press, I believe it's G. Maybe it's not G. Maybe it's C. Maybe it's right-click. Maybe it's H. Ah, there you go. H for hurl. It'll hurl a ball of just destructive matter. And so it's basically a 2-in-1. And you can change those key bindings in settings. I guess you should go ahead and say that too. If you go to Options, Controls, scroll down till you get to ProjectE, you could change all these key bindings or just reference them real fast. That's useful. Now, if you like wanton destruction, these three items are your best bet. If you want to repair some of your damage, we have a Mercurial Eye here. Mercurial Eye, it's a bit peculiar. Press C, it'll open up a grid. You'll see it wants a power source. In this case, we'll put a Klein star in there, and then it's going to need a block source. We'll put stone in there, and then right-clicking with it will just place that item. So you can get almost infinite stone, assuming you have the EMC for it in your Klein star. You can charge it up pressing V, and you can just place down really big slabs of stone. That's pretty interesting. Tap G, it'll change the mode. It'll change it to transmute mode, and then any item with an EMC value will be transmuted, in this case into stone. You don't have to use stone. If we open it back up, again, make sure you're selected it in your hotbar, press C. We'll get the stone out and we'll say, hey, let's go with oak planks. Why not? Transmute all of this into oak planks. Look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? And then you can select G again to change it to normal mode, where you can just build a wall of oak planks for whatever reason. I'm not here to question what you do. You do your thing and have fun with it. And to charge it down, Shift V, charge it back down. I think that really this is probably your best bet here, is to use it to build walls. That's pretty cool. And it builds the direction you're facing. So if I'm facing straight ahead, builds like that. If I'm facing straight down, if I'm facing kind of at an angle, I don't know. It's a bit iffy. Depends on how sharp an angle you're looking at. But look at that. I've now built this wonderful mess of items. Let's go ahead and put that up. It's almost more devastating than the destruction catalyst, so you do want to be careful with that one. Now, speaking of wanton destruction, check these guys out. These are fun. So this is a Nova Catalyst, and this is a Nova Cataclysm. They're explosives. TNT, Mobius Fuel, or you can use Nova Catalyst and Aethernalis Fuel. And as you can see, the recipes, you do get 2 for that one, 2 for this one. It's a pretty good deal. Let's go ahead and blow some things up with them. We'll head... I've got some more things we need to look at, so we'll head out here and do this. So that's the lower level one. Boom, it destroys it all, but instead of destroying the blocks, it drops it all into a little ball of matter, which you're probably familiar with, and dumps some of it into our inventory. What? You want a bigger explosion? Nova Cataclysm. Check this guy out. Place it. That's not going to work, is it? Awesome. And again, more junk I now have to clean out. Now that we're done with that, we're going to move into some weirder stuff here. And this is where I seriously recommend, if you're really curious about these items, check out the wiki. I'm not going to go very far into them. Right off the bat here, though, we have these Mind Stones, and these are interesting. This one right here will suck up XP orbs to the player, which is interesting. The Body Stone, it will restore your hunger. The Soul Stone will restore your hearts. And then this one here, the Life Stone, will do both. Now, this does, I think, take a little bit of EMC, but really... Oh, and you press G to activate them. It takes a little bit of EMC, but this one here will suck up XP orbs. I guess if you have some kind of mob crushing device and you want to suck up the XP, that'll work good for you. Activate this one, use up a little bit of fuel, a little bit of EMC, but it does so if you have a Klein Star, which we don't anymore. I got rid of it. If you have a Klein Star full of juice and you just want to make sure you stay fed, you want to make sure you stay healed, you want to make sure you do both, get it, it's useful. Also, you can place all of these items on, once again, our lovely pedestal here, and these things will work as an area of effect. So if you have a bunch of players, let's say you have like a downtown area on your server, you can set up a few of these pedestals with these life stones on them, and players can just run in downtown, and it'll restore hunger and health. Pretty cool. Or you can just carry them around with you again in your inventories. Pretty nifty. If you want to find out more, because there is more to find out, this is just a big, broad, general overview. Check out the wiki. Same for these two devices, your Evertide Amulet and your Vulcanite Amulet. Now, these two guys work basically as your endless water and your endless lava. Now, using the water does not take any EMC. Using the lava does. I think it's 32 EMC. They do some other things too. For instance, I think if you tab G, maybe H. H, yep, look at that. It's now going to start snowing. Let's get rid of that. Use H. So on the Evertide Amulet, that will not use EMC. It will on the Vulcanite Amulet. You can do so many other things with them. This one, you can breathe underwater infinitely. I think if you have this in your hotbar, you can survive in lava, freeze water. There's a lot to do. You can put them on pedestals if you want to create endless rain. Let's just go ahead and demonstrate that one. We'll put this guy, I think it's shift. Nope, we've done that wrong. That's fine. We'll get rid of that with our... Perfect. Yeah, it's a good way. How do you do this? I think you have to... Oh, we've done that wrong. Ah, that's how you do it. Right, you shift-click, that opens up, and then you put the guys in there. So if you want to put that in there, think right-click to activate it. You can start an endless snowstorm in this area. If you're in a different region, I think it'll do an endless rainstorm. Right-click to turn it off. If you want to make sure it never rains, shift-right-click to select the item, put this guy in there, activate it, make sure it never rains. And again, there's so many other cool things that these items do. Be sure to check out the wiki. These next few items are where you're going to get the least amount of information out of me because, to be honest, I haven't played with them enough to know everything they do, but let me give you a rundown here. We've got the pedestal. We've seen it. Iron Band does nothing except it's used in the recipes to create some of these rings, like Swift Wolf's Rending Gale, Dark Matter, Feathers, Iron Band. Kind of expensive, will allow you to fly like you're in creative mode. It needs EMC, so it'll either consume fuel or it'll consume EMC out of a Klein Star. It's pretty cool. Lets you fly. Can be put on a pedestal to shoot lightning. There's a lot of cool things that it does. Check out the wiki. Archangel Smite's a cool one. Thank Endless Arrows. Oh, look at that. A bad guy. I guess he spawned. Look at this. We'll take him down. Die. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's trying to get inside of here where we've got some monsters spawned. We'll worry about them later. I want to take this guy out. All right. It's not interested in him at all, but it's pretty cool anyway. We have a Black Hole Band, which sucks up items. We have the, what is this? Gem of Eternal Destiny, or Density, I should say, which just condenses items automatically. They can be combined together to create a Void Ring, which does both of those things and some other cool stuff. If you're into farming, Harvest Goddess Band. If you're into fire, think of the Vulcanite Amulet, except instead of lava fire. Same here, think Zero Ring. It's sort of like the Water Amulet, except with ice. And then we have the Ring of Arcana, which combines the powers of Swift Wolf and then these three. There's a lot of things that they do. This is supposed to be a quick, broad overview of everything, so we won't get into the details. Link to the wiki in the description. Really, if you're interested in any of these things, definitely read up on them. Now, this one I'm going to get into a little bit. This is the Watch of Flowing Time, which you can use to, if you press G, it will speed up things around you, but also slow down mobs. So if we go in here... These guys, yep, they'll slow down. They'll move a little bit slower now. And if we had some machines going while we had G selected, see G turns on, turns gold, the machines would go faster, which is really awesome. And I think other things would go faster as well. If we right click, it sets it to fast forward. Right now I have the sun frozen in the sky, but if it wasn't, right now it would be zooming across the sky. Right click again, and we'll set it to rewind, so the sun would zoom back in the other direction, and then right clicking again will turn it off. Again, I have the sun frozen in the sky for the sake of the video. That would have been a cool demonstration though. Read up on the wiki about that one. You can also put it on a pedestal and set it in a room with a bunch of machines to speed them up. Pretty cool. We've talked about dark matter. We've talked about red matter. You can obviously use those things to create dark matter armor, which is pretty good. Not completely. It's indestructible. You can't destroy the armor, but it doesn't prevent all damage to you. For that, you'd have to upgrade. We've got red matter armor. Gem armor, which is stupid expensive. Just the helmet is 29 million EMC. But if you look at the recipes, these things actually combine some of the stones and some of the different jewelry into the items and give them some really unique effects. So if you want to find out more about that, check out the link in the description to the wiki. There's a lot of really incredible, there's something talking in my ear. It was an ad. I had the wiki open and an ad started playing. So there you go, wiki on cue. Tools are great. Lots of cool things you can do with the tools. Be sure to check them out. Honestly, if I had the time, I would go into each of these in detail, but I don't. I'm already making this video a lot longer than I intended to, so just check out the description, read up on the items. Really, if you're just now learning about this, you don't really need to know about the gem armor because you're so far away from 29 million EMC, it doesn't even matter. Dark matter armor is pretty cool, though, although I think quantum armor is probably your best bet. Next up, and this is an item we could have looked at sooner, this is the Interdiction Torch. It's worth 12,000 EMC. And what it does is you can set it up around your base and it will repel mobs. And I've got some spawn eggs here. Doesn't look like we need them. These guys are kind of sealed away inside of here. Now, you'll notice we're using it in sort of a different way. We're using it to trap mods. What you'd really do with these is you'd place them around your house. If you take a look at the recipe, they are kind of expensive. 3 diamonds, 3 glowstone, some redstone. Philosopher stone, not consumed in the recipe again. You get two of these guys. You can set them up outside your door and the mobs won't be able to get near you. And because the entire area here is surrounded by them, they're just freaking out now. If I were to go out here, though, and break these two, these guys would now be able to come this way. So come on this way, guys. Look at this creeper. We can put that in there and it'll force them back. So you can use them to keep mobs away from you or to keep them all trapped inside of an area. This only works with hostile mobs. It will not keep good mobs like sheep or pigs or things away from you. So a good way to keep yourself safe, to keep your base safe, albeit expensive. Now, we're kind of at the end here. We're winding down. We've only got a few other things to look at. Before we touch on these two guys, let's talk about collectors and let's talk about relays. Collectors, you place them down. They suck up either solar rays, like the ones we have in the sky right there, or they can also suck up energy from glowstone. There you go. Boom. It's sucking up energy and storing it, and then you can then use that energy to do some different things. A relay means that you can select several of these. You can set these up, and it'll suck up the juice from all 3 of them into sort of like this central area. Pretty basic. I know it might not be very explanatory. Let's go ahead and we'll grab the tier 3 version of this. This is the highest tier you can get. These guys aren't cheap either. They require the last tier, which Energy Collector Mark II, which requires Energy Collector Mark 1. Kind of expensive. You get the idea, though. Kind of expensive, but I think they're worth the money depending on what you're going to do with them. Keep those in mind because we're going to come back to them. First, let's take a look at our Dark Matter Furnace and our Red Matter Furnace. So these guys are expensive to make. If you take a look at them, the recipe, blocks of dark matter and a furnace. Kind of crazy, but they can be fueled using just about any kind of fuel, including the ones that are inside of ProjectE, so Aeternalis fuel, Mobius fuel, things like that. They will take charcoal and use it as regular coal, or regular coal will burn 4 times as long. It has a chance, I think a 50% chance of duplicating the things that you put inside of it. You cannot put dust inside of it, or you can, but it won't duplicate that, so no luck there. The red matter furnace is exactly the same, except for it for sure will duplicate everything you put inside of it. Also, it has more storage space. So you see you have the items that you put in here will be smelted. You place for, this is the item that's going to be smelted next. This is where the fuel would go, and this is where the output is. This has more input, more output. It goes faster, much faster. I think it's something ridiculously faster. I don't even want to say because it might be wrong, but it's absurdly fast. You can put any kind of fuel in there you want, and it will for sure double everything except for dust. So again, if you've already macerated things, they won't get duplicated again inside of a red matter furnace. However, You could use this in place of a macerator and a furnace combo. Just use this. You put a block of, let's say, gold in there, spits out 2 gold ingots. Pretty awesome. Now, you can use fuel in there, or you can use energy collectors to fuel these things directly from solar power, which is pretty cool. So let's do a demonstration. We'll get a piece of gold. We'll throw it in there. Boom. See how fast that was? 2 gold ingots from our, if we throw 111. Now, let's be sensible about this. We will throw a stack of gold in there, and it's doubling the gold as it cooks it incredibly fast, and this is more than enough to power it, a Mark III version of this. Really crazy. We'll come back over here. We'll grab, see if we can find just some coal. Black wool. Where's coal at? Might have already passed it. Nope, there we go. Coal. And we'll grab some more ores. So I guess we'll go with this time iron. Again, you can fuel it with coal. Throw some iron in there. And it does seem to be doubling it every time. Maybe I was wrong on that. I thought that it only had a small chance to double it. But it seems to be doubling it every go-around. So I'm wrong. I'm just a wrong person. What can I say? I'll go ahead and accept that. But as you can see, it's also pretty fast. You can use just regular coal in there. It's pretty efficient with the coal. Look how much we've done on 2 pieces of coal. There we go. 3rd piece of coal. It's still going. Great items if you can afford to build them. Now, I talked earlier about a cheaty but legitimate way to get EMC, and that's using an energy collector along with a condenser to suck up energy from the sun. And look at this. We're collecting energy. We've got about 6,200 or 6,300 EMC. We're sucking that up. We're dropping an energy condenser, and it's slowly making red matter. You can speed that up by placing more energy condensers around this guy here. Now we don't have access to him. I guess we can go in from the bottom, though. Let's see. Yeah. It's now working much quicker. It's sucking up some rays and converting those rays into matter. You can use relays so you can connect even more of these guys up. So check this out. We'll just place them all around. Place them on top. Look how absurdly fast it is now. It's trying to create some red matter. You don't have to create red matter. Maybe we could just make some more collectors. Not sure why you'd want to do that. Let's give it a good demonstration. Let's give it stone. Yeah, so you can just generate a mass ton of stone constantly. You could do the same with, let's say we had some blocks of wood. Create a mass ton of wood very quickly. This is great if you want to progress quickly, but if you want to actually have fun and kind of get down with the struggle, this is kind of cheaty. It's also expensive. These energy condensers, they're not cheap. The relays are not cheap. The condensers are actually kind of cheap. You'll probably have a lot of them sitting around anyway. But this is kind of a low version of what's called a power flower or a solar flower. It's a way to use the sun to generate matter passively. And if you don't want to have to worry about going out and building quarries and things, you can do this to get EMC. It'll definitely help you progress faster if that's your thing. It's not my thing. I built one in my Let's Play series, but we haven't used it. It's just kind of sitting in the corner because people were demanding it. It's a thing you can do, though. So there you go, folks. That's the quick tutorial covering all of the items in more or less enough detail to give you a good idea. Wow, it snowed quite a bit, didn't it? Jeez. That amulet is a bit OP. But if you are interested in seeing any of these items in more detail, you have a couple options. One, check out my Let's Play series. Again, there'll be a link in the description. I have done 50 episodes. We're about to start a next sort of round of episodes with a new goal. I use a lot of the ProjectE stuff in it. It's all really great. I love it all. We're going to be using a lot more here moving forward. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely check it out. And if you want to see any of these items covered in a more in-depth tutorial, maybe a specific tutorial for the stones or the rings or something, comment, let me know. If we get enough comments, I might do a dedicated tutorial to any of these items. And, wow, I'm almost out of breath, so I'm going to go take a break. Until next time, thank you folks for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you later. Bye!